Hey, y'all. Welcome back.
What's up?
We are Truth Beer Pod, and this is Truth Beer Pod after the main recording.
Yeah, a little bonus episode going on here.
A little bonus. We are here still at Higher Gravity Summit Park. There's been a couple of things in the local craft beer community that we wanted to talk about. So we just finished recording our main episode where we talked about a little bit of beers and beards.
Mm-hmm. Beers and beards.
Beers and beards. And then we did Cincy Brewcast with Verge.
Yep.
Brewing company. And then Shift Beers.
Where they just talked about random stuff. I mean...
Banana Land or something. Banana hammocks, whatever.
Oh, gosh. All the bananas.
Hey!
Promo code GNOME at manscaped.com.
That's right. A couple of things locally we wanted to go ahead and get a drink and just talk about. And so I have a pour of Casa Dora's Reposado Tequila. I have not had this brand yet.
Okay. Nice.
This was on recommendation from our producer, Annie.
Producer Annie's the best.
Annie, you are working on still your King Al. Mm-hmm. Al Bundy ale from, that is Toppling, Goliath, and Equilibruim.
Yes. Or is it Al Franken? Or is it Albert Einstein? Or is it... There are any number of Weird Al.
Weird Al.
Yankovic.
Yeah, Weird Al Yankovic.
I mean, and this could be any number
of
owls.
Any Al. Al Roker.
It could be. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. So
top 5 owls, Julia.
Oh no, Bard, Great Horned, Screech.
Good job. Touche.
So that fun story about that, when I was up here, I forget if it was Tuesday before you got here. It was when Jason was here, so I guess it was Tuesday when he was filling in for Annie because she wanted to do a Thursday shift for trivia night. Mm-hmm. We were talking, and he was, filling out like what was coming in, and he's like, and he was describing the can art, and I'm like, oh, you mean like a dinosaur dressed as Albert Einstein? And he kind of looked at me and he goes, yeah. And I'm like, you didn't mention the breweries involved. So in my head, I'm picturing like the bird, like an owl with, I don't know, maybe antlers or maybe something else really weird about this particular owl. And I was disappointed until I heard Toppling Goliath and went, dinosaurs, I'm still in. Yeah. 100%.
So
that's Julia's fun fact. Yes.
King,
like
Al.
King Sue.
A-L.
Yes.
Like you can call
O-W.
me Al.
Can I call you Betty? Instead, I'd rather call you Betty if you can call me Al.
Betty, if you're ready, you can call me Al.
Man, you're singing and you're not even through 2 sips of your tequila.
No, not even through 2.
Yeah, so we wanted to do a bit of a bonus episode. Maybe 15, 20 minutes. Nothing too crazy about some local brewery news, because it's something that Marco and I are both pretty passionate about, but we never really talk about on our show or even any bonus episodes that we've done, and I don't know why. Like, there's no good reason for it, and I feel like there might be a slight void in the Cincinnati Craft Beer podcast world that we could try to fill a little bit with some of this.
A little bit of grand opening, grand closing, right? So there was the RIP to Rebel Mettle several weeks back.
Yep.
And then more recently, there's the RIP to Rolling Mill in Middletown. So their last day, I think, is the last day of this month, September.
I believe so.
I believe. And so for those of you who don't know Rolling Mill is a gluten-free brewery. The only gluten-free brewery in Ohio.
Right.
Open for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. A lot of their beers were named after their dogs. Like Two Goldens was their kind of flagship beer.
Way better than the Stinky Kitty or whatever it is.
The Creamy Kitty.
Creamy Kitty from Barleycorns or whatever.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about them.
We can, skip it.
We're skipping over that one.
So, but certainly gluten-free brewery. Owner had one of the owners, husband and wife, had celiac disease, and the other had a intolerance or an allergy to gluten. And so they had a passion and came together to create this brewery. That was a gluten-free brewery.
Right.
Certainly, there is a segment of the market that they were filling a void for. When you think of segments of this market that you're filling a void for, there's gluten-free brewery, there's the non-alcoholic segment to it.
Will there ever be a lactose-free brewery? Like,
God,
I know that.
God, I hope so.
I mean, I feel like that would affect a pretty big portion of the drinking population. That there is almost a need for it, but I don't know if.
Get out of here with the lactose.
I don't know.
But anyway, they are closing, shutting their doors after 5 years. And you would think after 5 years, after navigating through COVID, or the first, waves and repercussions of COVID itself, to come out now when COVID essentially shut everything down in late February, early March of 2020, and as we are talking in late September of 2022. You made it this far, and then now you've come to the point to close. And from the article, which was unfortunately very vague and short,
right?
It just said they lacked the funding and finances to progress, to be able to profit and continue to do this.
But they also said that there were some health issues within the family, and that it didn't say if that family was like immediate, the husband, wife, kids, whatever, or if it was a more extended family. But they also used that as part of the decision that we want to be able to help our family through whatever's going on. They don't need to justify it.
Sure.
But they said the combination of the two led them to say, what closing now is what we need to do right now. We need to focus on our family. We don't want to have to fight the finances, and so we're going to be closing our doors, which I've only had their beers at beer festivals. Like, I never actually made it up to the brewery, and I don't know that I'm going to make it up before they close, which does upset me a bit, but I think they had an amazing run. I think that they proved that the demand in the market for those gluten-free beers and for like an actual dedicated place that only makes certified gluten-free options is viable, is something that is not just something to where, any other brewer in the city said, oh, well, hey, we made a beer, this one's gluten-free, but there's the potential for cross-contamination. It was nice to see that the effort was made to provide that service and that product to, as you said, a percentage of the population that is not able to enjoy beer on a normal basis.
I have a lot of questions that are unanswered, right?
Sure.
And so, unfortunately, I hate to say goodbye to anybody in this craft beer community. They were filling a need and a niche. It's a need for people with celiac disease. It's a need for people that have gluten intolerances, and I'm glad they were able to service those needs. But some of the questions I would ask are, was your tap room full on Friday and Saturday night? Another question I would ask is, in order to be as profitable as you wanted, if your tap room was full on Friday and Saturday night, if it was full on, let's say, Wednesday night when you did trivia, if you did a decent amount on, let's say, a Sunday or a Monday, Tuesday, just, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
If you did a decent amount there, did you see distribution as the only way that you were going to be able to grow and to succeed? If the answer is yes, and that was the only way that you were going to be able to grow and succeed, I know that they underwent an expansion. And what then happened? I mean, because I would think, now I'm not, please don't take in anything that I'm not saying in any way that I'm in any way an expert. My comments do not reflect anything other than my personal thoughts and opinions, not any place that I may or may not be affiliated with. Those questions are asked, I would ask, because if your place was busy, if your place was full on the weekends, if your place did a fair amount of business during the week, did you find that even being busy then, it was not a sustainable model? And, I don't know. To me, it almost sounds like a product like Athletic Brewing, where I have no idea if there's an Athletic Brewing tap room. I have no idea if there's 2 or 3 or 10.
Right.
But I know that because they fill a need in a market in America that is, it's not 10%.
No.
The non-alcoholic beer category
it's
is not 10%. It's not 5%. It's at the moment grown to double its size to about 4%.
And it's still making a killing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's one gluten-free mass-produced brewery that you can find, and it's like Breckenridge or something of the nature. Actually, Glutenberg.
Glutenberg. And again, like ciders are out there, but if you're looking for beer,
Yeah. If you're looking for beer.
Yeah.
So it's something where a small craft space could fill. And I'm not saying, I'm not asking those questions in any way a malicious fashion or anything, or to say that, these questions are in any way some reason that, I have answers that they don't have. No, it's not at all. But when a brewery is in planning and planning to open, what are the differences between the planning and the reality is what I would ask.
Sure,
because
sure.
You navigated through a pandemic, and then now that you're at the point where the pandemic is not restricting you in any way, did it take everything you had to get there and you just couldn't go any forward anymore? Because it did sound like there was a funding or a financing issue, and of course family problems.
Sure.
And the family problems, family comes first. Absolutely 100%. But if they could have stayed a viable business and helped family, I don't know whether they would have preferred that or not. That's their own personal decision.
And something that I'll kind of throw into the financial, like how you said you managed to survive through the pandemic, but now that the pandemic is over, now there's the financial struggle. And I'm not an expert. I am just repeating things that I have heard.
The restrictions of the pandemic.
Well, correct.
Are
right.
Not, we're not
saying the pandemic's over. Yes, correct. You said the restrictions. Now they can have as many people in the tap room as they want, that kind of thing.
Right.
The only thing that I'm going to, and I don't even want to say counter that with, but the only thing that I want to bring up that is something that never even crossed my mind until I was listening to season 1 of Brew Sky's Happy Hour. The loans that these small businesses got, that some of them even had to put their houses up for collateral for, they're just now, and just within the past year or so, the government is starting to say, or the banks or whoever is starting to say, okay, now you need to start paying that back. So yes, restrictions are lifted, but they were making almost nothing. And again, this I don't know any of the financial situations of any brewery. This is purely my own individual thought on maybe what happened. During the pandemic, people were just barely making it by if they were in the brewery business. They took out these loans to try to keep the doors open, whatever that meant during the pandemic restrictions. But now that those restrictions are lifted and now the banks are saying, okay, now you need to start paying that back. Well, they were already potentially in the red, close to the red. And this isn't really Mill specifically. This is just, again, a very broad global stroke on the brewery industry as a whole. Maybe it was something to where, yes, with some financial aid, they were able to make it through the pandemic when there were a lot of restrictions in place. But now that places are saying, okay, well, now you need to start giving that back, maybe that's what that tipping point was. And again, I don't know any of their financial situation. Like, I don't know any of the specifics. This is purely a hypothetical. This is potentially something that could have impacted them in a way that they were not, that you couldn't plan for. You couldn't plan for a pandemic to happen, really. I mean, there's only so much of a disaster contingency plan that you can have in place. But go ahead.
I get that, and I just, with being a brewery that serves a very particular segment of the population, and serves a maybe underserved segment of the population.
For sure.
It's disappointing that they unfortunately had to close their doors because they did go through a system upgrade. They were at one point distributing beer or their product, we can call it.
Sure.
And it was a passion of a husband and wife who need a product like that for their own enjoyment.
Right.
And so it's just unfortunate. And it's I hope in closing the brewery they're able to fulfill to the extent that they want to, the obligations that they want to pay to the family needs.
Sure. Yeah.
And they, from listening to podcasts and stuff in history, they were in their own fields, and hopefully they find a way of going forward in whatever field that was or whatever field they choose. They have a lot of knowledge and experience, and it's just unfortunate and disappointing that something that served a niche couldn't find the sort of traction like a brewery such as Urban Artifact serves.
Right, sure.
Urban Artifact serves a niche.
Oh, absolutely they do.
And they are able to continue. They're able to be a product that is highly rated. They're able to be a product that is distributed. They're a product that's been able to ship. Rolling Mill served a niche for people who have severe allergies or intolerances. So for them to have to close, it's just one less option out of extremely few options that those people have.
Yeah.
And so personal aspect aside from the family needs, and all that, it's unfortunate that those niche craft beer drinkers don't have that as an option.
Right. But what I do want to kind of say to round up the kind of Rolling Mill closing part of this is it's disappointing and unfortunate that they closed, absolutely, but they at least reached out via social media. They let people know what was going on. Rebel Mettle, I loved that place. I absolutely loved it. I mean, again, I'm one of those, I bought their beer in stores. I didn't make it to the tap room as much as I would have liked to, but I bought their beer in stores. I felt that, I was helping the brewery buying their beer when I could. Talked to the owners multiple times. Every time I went down there, if I would run into them at beer events. But I was really disappointed that when they closed their doors, there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing they provided back to their customers, to their friends of the brewery to say, hey, and I understand that. I'm sure that cannot be an easy thing to do. I'm sure that it was a devastating realization to make, and to actually start marking down on stuff, we're closed. I'm sure that was heartbreaking. I can't imagine that it wouldn't be. But to to not at least acknowledge the people that loved what you were doing and that supported you with what you were doing. And every time they saw you, they said hi, and they're like, hey, man, it's so awesome to see you. I love your beer, love this. What's coming up next? I mean, like, not even 2 or 3 weeks, it was probably maybe 2 weeks before they closed, I was at a small beer event that they were present at, and I'm like, yeah, is there anything new coming down the pipelines? I think one of the brewers or someone that worked there was present. He's like, man, we have a couple new things coming. It's going to be awesome. This is so cool. And then like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was later, all of a sudden it's just no posts, absolutely nothing. Just, hey, does anyone know why when you look up Rebel Mettle on Google, it says instead of their hours, permanently closed? What's going on?
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what it's like to be someone that has that big of a passion project going. And to have to say, I can't do this project anymore. Like, I do not know what mental toll that takes. But at the same time, to not acknowledge it at all, I don't know. It disappointed me.
But Julia, to an extremely minuscule degree, that's what we're doing.
Sure.
It's compared to putting a second mortgage on your home, or taking all the money out of your 401k,
right?
Right. All that stuff.
Sure.
But to a minuscule degree, that's what we're doing. I mean, Truth Beer Pod is alive because we have a passion for craft beer, and because we decided to put our money into it. And the people who support us on through the support us link, and the people who support us by talking about us on other podcasts, and who share us with their friends and everything else. I mean, if this ever stopped, there's still people out there that do listen regularly, and to one degree, I'd say yes. If you never gave us $1, or if you never shared us with a friend, that may or may not play into whether the show continues or not. But honestly, this is a small enough investment for the two of us, although we've invested quite a bit, the two of us. This is a small enough investment to where we can, if ever the day comes, we could walk away and monetarily our lives would not be turned upside down.
True.
And unfortunately, what I fear for everybody who has to close is that
there is a personal monetary impact. I'm sure.
Impact that may become a vacuum that I don't know how they're going to get out of.
Sure. I guess that I look at it from more of that personal perspective.
Do you want a straw so you can pinch that out of there?
No, if I drink it, I drink it. It's
okay.
fine. I'm actually waiting so I can be like, hey, oh, he's still alive. He's swimming.
If he dies, he dies. Are you going to save it?
Yeah.
Is it saved?
I don't know where. Oh, yeah, he just flew. He just flew.
Wow, you did it.
Saved. Oh, no, there he is. He's right there.
It's still saved.
He's drunk. I saved a spider that was on our front porch. Josh wanted me to destroy it with fire, and I was like, I'll just move him down to the tree by the street instead of our porch.
I'm Kim Josh.
Because they eat bugs.
The spider's going to come back.
See, we get a lot of bugs around our front porch because of the porch light. The spider catches them and eats them to get rid of them so they don't fly into our house when I come home at 10 o'clock at night on
a nursery rhyme when we were back in Catholic school about a spider and the thing? And then, anyways.
Yeah. Okay. But no, I know exactly what you're saying about. He's coming over to your tequila class.
No,
just
fuck
heads
that.
Up.
This motherfucker died. He dead now, Julia.
Damn. After he was so drunk, he was feeling good, and you just destroyed it. But
That's
I understand 100% about like the financial side and that side of things. But I guess to me, on kind of that personal, like if something happened to where Truth Beer Pod needed to stop, I feel like we would at least acknowledge, like, hey, sad that this is our last day, our show, whatever.
I think so.
But we appreciate everyone that ever had that ever listen to our show, to where you have a brewery closing. We appreciate anyone that ever had a pint or a can of our beer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like.
And also, we're doing it wrong, apparently, to all of our friends. Like,
apparently.
Somehow there's some sort of tax benefit to what we're doing, to where, not benefit necessarily, but some sort of tax.
This could be a business. This could be considered a business. I don't know.
And we don't do that.
I don't.
We don't do that.
No.
So
right, and if that financial burden is so hard, I mean, like I said, I don't know what it feels like to have to shut down your life's passion project. I don't, and to each their own. I'm not. If I ran into Greg or Mike somewhere, I am still going to be like, holy shit, it's awesome to see you. How are you doing? In the general sense. I just really wish that the people that supported the brewery would have gotten an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And maybe that's selfish. Maybe that's selfish to say. But I don't know.
But it's not selfish on your part. I mean, because
I don't know.
You didn't buy any gluten-free beer. It's
sure.
It's just from
I guess acknowledging the situation as a whole.
Rebel Mettle,
right,
though.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, for that,
definitely.
I just feel like for Rolling Mill, like they didn't have to say anything. They could have just said, hey, after 5 great years, we've decided that we need to unfortunately close the doors, and
they're the one that brought up the money stuff.
But that's what I'm saying. All they needed to have said was, we've decided that it is best for us at this time to close the doors. We thank everyone for coming out. We hope to see you in the future, whatever. And
right.
Not mention family, not mention money, not mention anything, but just acknowledge, hey, our doors are closing. Instead of not knowing anything except for what you see on like a Google search, or like you try to go to their website and you get this domain is available and you're like, I don't understand what happened. You drive by and there's plywood over over all the
right.
entrances. And again, I understand, not in the personal sense, because again, I've never had to go through it, but I know that wasn't an easy call to realize you have to make. I just wish, and again, this is me personally, your mileage may vary, maybe you don't care that they never acknowledged that they were closing on social media. That's fine. I just kind of wish that their patrons, because they were busy. Every time I went there, they were busy. It's not like I ever went on a Friday night and it was dead. I don't know. I just kind of, I wish we would have gotten something from them to acknowledge any part of it. I don't fault them for it, but I do wish that it would have been
for the second or third time to try to wrap up the closing portion of Rebel Mettle and Rolling Mill.
Yes, because we have some good stuff to talk about too.
The only other thing I'd say is that I want news media to do better.
Yes.
These pencil whipped articles that you get, and I understand I'm reading them for free.
Sure.
And you want me to sign up for whatever bullshit subscription you want me to sign up for. Do better.
Yeah.
These articles suck. They are terrible. They grab you with a headline like local brewery closing, and it's like three paragraphs that were put out from the place itself. There's no journalism there.
No, it's a copy and paste from social media.
There's not a Q&A. Nobody took the time to speak with anybody. It's just reposting essentially what is a social media post from someplace, and that's not journalism.
You
remember when journalists used to go and actually speak to people,
right?
Or interact with people,
or you get the headline, like you said, local brewery closing, and then the story itself is a maximum of 3 lines. Such and such a brewery has closed their doors. We reached out to the ownership for comment and have not received a response. Well, then you know what?
It's not a fucking story.
What is the point?
It's not a story.
I agree.
All it is a headline.
Just make that as your social media post then. Just be like, hey, we received word of this. We have not gotten comment. We'll post a story when we have content for you. I don't know.
What? There's a conundrum there because with journalists, putting out journalism this way,
Right.
it just gives a lot more landing pad for people like the Gnarly Gnome who actually sit down and
Absolutely.
talk to people.
I agree.
You
I
know,
agree.
And it, not us, because that's not what we do. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm not wrong for asking journalists to do a little bit of journalism.
I
So,
agree. I agree with that.
Yeah. That,
Do you need to get another drink before we talk about some of the positives? Because I know we said this was going to be like a 15, 20-minute show, and we're definitely over that right now. And we have some positive stuff happening locally that we want
we
to
do.
talk about.
I should, and the reason I should is because we're going to cheers when we're done.
Absolutely. You should have something in your
my
glass. All right,
other
take a
than
real quick
limes.
break, and we'll be back with some good news from the Cincinnati Craft Beer scene.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So we talked about some of the unfortunate situations happening with Cincinnati breweries in the recent weeks. But there's some good news coming out of that. And this is a terrible, terrible thing to say, but with every door that closes, another one opens. Good news for the Cincinnati Craft Brewery scene. Unfortunately, we had 2 places close and announce their closing, but we also have 2 places that have opened and are opening very, very soon.
Yeah.
That I think we should celebrate and that we should shout out. So we have Moeller Brew Barn up in Monroe, Ohio.
Yeah.
They just recently opened their doors. Not a standalone Cincinnati craft brewery. I mean, this is one of they have 4 or 5. They're going to have like a total of, I believe, 5 locations around the northern Cincinnati, northern Ohio area. Cincy Brewcast did a great episode with and about them, so definitely go check that out. But it's great to have another brewery.
Stein. Did I remember
In
that
Maria
correct?
Stein. Yep, you are correct.
Jesus.
Good
Where
job.
did I pull this shit from?
From our notes, from our shared notes,
That's
because
right.
your notes are my notes.
That's right.
Good job. But yeah, so very excited that they're here. I don't think that I have ever had a Moeller Brew Barn beer, but I am
haven't.
very excited to try it. They took over, bought, whatever. I don't know proper terminology anymore. It's late enough. The old Rivertown Brewing facility. And I'm glad to see that another brewery went into that space instead of it being turned into just like a random warehouse or something.
Put up a parking lot.
Cut down all the trees, paved the shit out of everything, and they put up a parking lot.
Yeah.
Big
so
yellow taxi.
I too
Mom
am
would be
glad
proud.
it's a brewery.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
from the interview that the Gnarly Gnome did, it sounds like they do have plans for that brewery as far as production space. They better. 'Cause
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a
it's
giant
huge.
production
Yeah,
space.
absolutely.
But they're open. I have not stopped by yet, even though
You're pretty close with the new place that you don't work at, right?
correct.
Nice.
Yeah, the place
Good.
I don't work at is not far away.
Good.
But I was going to give them time.
Yeah, get to settle into the systems
one
and
would
all that.
think
Sure,
with
sure.
what I do and where they are, that, I should be there on day one. Nah, I don't think
It's
so.
like I feel like if you can, okay, but don't take what you get on the day 1 or week 1 as what
That's
it's
my
going to
point.
be.
That's
right,
my bigger
right.
point.
Sure. There's nothing wrong with going up to the grand opening and seeing what they're about, what they're doing, but do not make your final permanent opinion based off of their initial opening presentation of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome. But also, Lebanon Brewing Company is
Lebanon
opening
Brewing
up
Company.
within the next week and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people listening to this podcast are not going to listen until Friday. There was a industry soft opening. I believe it's Monday through Thursday from 4 to 8. Industry soft opening.
I think Friday. I think their grand opening's the 23rd, which is Friday when this comes out. So
Okay. Very good.
yeah.
Very good.
So when this episode comes out, well, unless I post on Saturday, either way, by the time you listen to this, they should be open to the public.
Yeah.
Yes, and again, up in Lebanon, so a little closer to you in your current not place of work. That sounded awkward, but
Right.
I'm running with it. Than
Not
me.
that far
but
from one of the places that I did work.
this is true. This is very true. So very exciting that they're not necessarily in the Cincinnati city limits, but they're close enough to where we're going to accept them into the Cincinnati Craft Beer family with open arms. And if they have good beer, we're gonna drink the hell out of it. Oh, the tequila is hitting. That's awesome.
I actually, with the Cellar Dweller, I did a presentation at in Lebanon at like their, I mean, I don't know what it is, Lebanon Hall or whatever. But
yeah.
Anyways, I took beer, gave things, did all that stuff, and it was cool. But anyways, not far from Cellar Dweller at all.
That's cool.
Congratulations to Moeller Brew Barn. Congratulations to Lebanon Brewing Company.
Yes.
Maybe we can get out there sometime soon. Unfortunate for the places that had to go away. We covered that.
Right.
And, congratulations to the places that are coming along.
Right, and I do want to talk about them more once they're open and have had a chance to be open for a bit. It's kind of hard to really talk about them because, I mean, Gnome's already given you as much of an introduction to these places as you can have on both his podcast and on thegnarlygnome.com without any actual experience with them. All that we're going to be able to say is just a repeat of what the Gnome has already said and what he's already written.
Right.
So I am very excited for them opening, and I'm even more excited for when we get an opportunity to get up there to try their beers, to see their spaces, and to, I don't know, welcome them into, as I said before, the Cincinnati Craft Beer family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cheers, Julia.
Yeah, this was a bit of a longer little bonus episode than we thought, but cheers to you, Marco.
Cheers.
And hopefully you guys enjoyed this little long-ish snippet of some local brewery news happening here in the Cincinnati area.
My bad.
All good, man. We will see you guys in the next episode coming up very, very soon. Bye.